Welcome. You're watching Business Plus here on News9 Live. I'm Krishna Kumar, and we begin with the big business news story this morning, and that is Infosys and Wipro, two of India's top 4 IT giants, are set to altogether miss campus hiring. They won't be at campuses. The class of 2024 engineering graduates are going to have it difficult because out of the 4, 2 won't be there, which means that only TCS and HCL are the 2 companies that will be on campus for hiring. And even the other ones, Wipro and Infosys, who are for sure not going to campuses up until March 2024, are only likely to come back post that. And bear in mind, Wipro and Infosys together have hired more than 2 lakh people in the last 3 years. And this year, they have chosen to give campus hiring a miss. And that implies that only TCS and HCL are hiring among the big 4. The number hired in 2023-24 is already at an all-time low, and this will take it even further down. Many other IT companies too, apart from the big 4, are also giving the ongoing placement season a miss and are only set to visit campuses post-March 2024. Serious decline in hiring, 30 to 40%. We've already been talking about the shrinkage in the workforce of India's IT sector over the past year. Numbers just not matching up to the year before. And with all the talk of a quote-unquote washout year for Indian IT, the number of people hired by Indian IT companies are only set to go down further. We have Mr. Rakesh, editor of News9's English Newsverse, now joining us live on the show. Rakesh, a very good morning. I mean, look at that hiring number. Infosys and Wipro are sitting out this placement season, which means that only TCS and HCL are going to be in placements. Talk to us.
Yes, Krishna, good morning. It's bad news one after the other for the IT sector. We've seen the results, we've seen the guidance, whichever company possibly gives the guidance, It's following a certain trajectory which is not in the right direction, unfortunately. But, it takes us about 15 years ago when,
Absolutely, as Rakesh was telling us, the IT sector earnings have been the precursor to all this talk of the reduction in hiring because if you look at it, all the top 4 IT companies and otherwise in India, it's been a mixed bag for India's IT sector as far as the quarterly report card is concerned. And more importantly, the pain is set to continue because the guidance given along with these quarterly results have been absolutely muted. And that's what Rakesh was talking about. Rakesh, isn't it, sir? We had that as a precursor, but looks like there's set to be more pain going forward.
Yeah, unfortunately, I lost the audio in between. But what I was trying to say is that this is bad news coming one after the other. But, there's also a possibility that there's a tweak in the business plan, possibly companies like Infosys and Wipro are looking at, tweaking their entry-level hiring, in line with the line of business they have. Possibly they're not looking at freshers to fill in that gap, and they want people with 1 year's experience or more. So in that sense, one must read this not going to campus idea, not with all trepidation. I think we must give that little leeway. And if we see, obviously the scene is pretty bad, and one can't take away that reality from the IT sector. Guidance is poor, industry estimates are poor, but one little window could be that both these big ticket IT companies are looking at aligning themselves with the line of business they have from the global environment and possibly skipping the campus for now. And this is for now. I think we must bring in that caution. It's not a blanket ban as I read it. And if it's not a blanket ban, then they could go back to the campus as and when they have that piece of business. Krishna.
All right. Now let's quickly move on to the other big business news story we're tracking. And that has got to do with that comment coming in from Foxconn's India representative who said that we are in the Bharat era with all that increased scrutiny on manufacturing in China. Rakesh ji, I mean, this is another voice. This is very clear because a lot is happening. It's not just that comment of Bharat era. At Foxconn's recently concluded annual conference, you had the likes of Roshni Nadar, chairperson of HCL Tech, attending it, and state government representatives from India attending it, the highest Indian representation at the Foxconn's annual summit. It's a very clear marker as to what Foxconn's ambitions are as far as the Indian market is concerned, both for manufacturing in India and for catering to the Indian market. And the names that they've invited are telling the story over here. Bear in mind, Foxconn has its biggest presence in India, in my home state of Tamil Nadu, and they are only set to expand all of that further because they have presence across India, in fact, Rakesh ji. And look at that, Bharat Era is what Foxconn calls it.
Well, I mean, Foxconn is obviously very, very bullish on India, but the choice of Bharat brings in a little political perspective. I think, one could call it politically incorrect, but probably politically correct. It depends upon how Foxconn sees it and how those. But on a serious note, I think a company like Foxconn are very, very bullish on India, and they've expressed their intent, and there is a proof of the idea in that sense. This is quite expected, and I think all equal stakeholders in this country, right from the state government, the federal play, the central government, the key ministers, are all out there to make a commitment to, bring in investments from outside of India in these very, very critical areas. And, this also marks what we call, people expecting big ticket IT companies and, tech companies moving out of China. Early days, but good news that Foxconn is taking the course and is expressing it in a public domain.
Right. We will stay with Bharat, Rakesh ji, because there has been a boom in luxury cars in Bharat, and that's showing in the profit and loss statements of the luxury car makers operating in India. The profits of luxury car makers selling in India have just doubled. Sales are going through the roof. We had no doubts about the Indians' ability to choice and pick the best of engineering as far as cars are concerned. But look at the way they're willing to shell out. Rakesh ji, I mean, car sales, up and down in quarters maybe, but there is actually no up and down. There is no vagarities as far as the luxury car sales in India is concerned. I remember them going through the roof even during the pandemic. There was absolutely no stopping in Indians' appetite for luxury cars.
Quite interesting. The whole world looked as an extremely price-sensitive market. I don't know where all those terrorists are. They've got a long walk, it seems, and that too, it's all happening post-COVID. India is recovering. Quite seriously, I think, post-COVID, very interesting trends are emerging in the market consumption scenario. It's emanating in people bypassing the small cars, people bypassing small tenements in terms of housing. So I think, people are, looking for the day that is. In terms of living for the day and not dying rich with all the money they have, they're living rich. That's one way of looking at it. The other very interesting way of looking at it is from a socio-economic, pattern change that's huge to notice to my mind, and that's across tier 2, tier 3 cities in India, is that, India was a cautious, essentially a savings economy. And now we are increasingly moving towards a debt economy where, if you have to buy a luxury car, it costs X amount of money. And you don't, you have an aspiration to have it in your garage, but you don't necessarily the money to buy it. But, in comes the housing, in comes the finance, ecosystem, which is out there to woo you if you have a stable income. So, movement away from India being a price-sensitive market in a certain domain, and also movement into India driving increasingly from a savings to a very debt-led economy, especially among the younger audiences. So I think that's driving this great growth. And of course, there is, these are all great products and they have a global testimony. So why not enjoy them and savor the journey?
Right, and all I can think of is that it's a marker of success. I remember the Chinese economy, people in China being crazy after brands and luxury cars. It was a marker of the kind of success that their economy had, and this is another marker of the kind of success that India as an economy has been, the kind of appetite for luxury cars. Thank you, Rakesh ji, for taking time out to speak to us on that and more on this edition of Business Plus. And with that, we wrap up this particular edition of Business Plus. We're taking a short breather. We'll be back with the Global Business Report on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Keep it with News 9.